So thank you for joining me, and it's great to see you. I understand you are in Cambridge, Massachusetts today, so we'll talk about that in a moment. But
Sure.
I figured that it might be a good place to start with a little bit of your story, how you decided to pursue a career as a professor in entrepreneurship. And for those who might be watching this for the first time, let me introduce myself. My name is Jorge Silva-Puras. I'm provost and senior vice president for academic affairs at Lehman College, which is part of the City University of New York. And with me is Dr. Andrew Gold, better known as Andy. Andy Gold
Yes.
is professor of entrepreneurship. So welcome, Andy. Great to have you.
Great to be here. Thank you so much for including me on this. So, yeah, I grew up in New York City. I was born and raised there, product of public education. And my life, my professional career at least, has been just filled with random serendipitous occurrences. And I think that that's really guided me from one career to the next to the next. So I started out for about 12 years working on Wall Street when I first got out of undergraduate school. Learned a lot about finance, developed a real affinity for that, met some incredibly smart people there. But over time, it really wore on me. So I didn't know what to do. I had a chance to work for a small business owner, an entrepreneur, a friend of mine, this guy, David. So I said, oh, sure, I'll do that. Seems like a good thing for me to work on. And he was actually installing Bloomberg terminals into small, like boutique investment companies. I really loved it. Technology was coming on. I thought, well, I can do this. I can start my own business, which I did. I never took a course in entrepreneurship. I don't even think they offered entrepreneurship when I was in college back in the day. So I'm fully self-taught, and everything I've learned during my second phase of my career, which was starting 6 different small businesses with a little bit of success. I had 2 companies, small businesses I was able to sell. One was an IT consulting business. The other was a commercial cleaning business called Ultra Clean. And then I had 2 businesses that I think you'd have to call an abject failure. And I learned so much through that. They were painful lessons to learn, but I did learn quite a bit through that. And 2 companies, I was essentially just lucky to get out break even. So I was cruising along as a small business owner, and a friend of mine who teaches at Columbia. I used to coach his son in youth baseball. He said, hey, do you want to come and talk to my class about, he called it social entrepreneurship, which was one of the business models I had, which is basically a for-profit business that takes profits and uses those profits for social good. So I said, sure, I'll come. I'd never done that. I was so nervous going to Columbia University to this MBA class. I thought, oh my gosh, these are going to be incredibly smart students. What could I possibly share with them? So I had a strategy. My strategy was to go in and tell them about all of these professional mistakes that I've made. And I thought that might be of value to them. And it was great. You know, I would tell my stories, mistakes I made professionally, and they just really ate it up. And I kind of had an epiphany in that room that day. This was back in, I don't know, 2009 or so, that
Uh-huh.
maybe I could teach as an adjunct. So I explored teaching. One thing led to another. I became a tenured faculty member at a large community college and joined Lehman College. I just finished my second year, and I'm just so excited to be at Lehman for so many reasons, but we can get into that later.
Sure, yeah. And I must say, you have come as a breath of fresh air for our students who are interested in either starting a business or just exploring the possibility of becoming entrepreneurs. And you can obviously become an entrepreneur by running your own business, or also by having an entrepreneurial mindset wherever you are, whether you are in another business or company, or in government, or in the not for profit sector. This
Hmm.
mindset, I think, is what students gravitate towards. This idea that you can think of new ways of doing things, of developing a product, developing a service, or enhancing that product or service, and that's what you bring to the classroom. So, one question I had for you, Andy, was for students who are contemplating the possibility of majoring in business, and have considered either starting a business or, as I said, building this entrepreneurial mindset. Do you have any suggestions in terms of what skill sets they should develop while they're in school, and even beyond their college career?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I think when you really look at modern day entrepreneurship curriculum and you drill down into the experiential nature of it and the applied learning that goes on in a well-designed entrepreneurship program, you begin to unpack all of these really vibrant, I'll just call them human skills that students develop. And when you look at those skills, and I'll give you some examples in a second, and you look at what employers are seeking in recent college graduates, there's a very tight alignment between the competency building and skill building that takes place through entrepreneurship curriculum and the skills that employers are looking for. So I'll give you a few examples. One of the things that a lot of people think employers will value is problem solving skills. And that kind of makes intuitive sense. But in the interviews I've done and my interactions with industry folks and myself as a former business owner, actually, what's of greater value to employers is people who are really good at problem finding or problem identification. Problem solving is not all that complex in a business setting, but it can be very costly if a problem is allowed to fester too long. So people who are really good at identifying problems early on and then working on some kind of remedy to address that can be a huge value add for a company. And in an entrepreneurship program like the one we have at Lehman, essentially that's all our students are doing in our classes. They are searching for problems in the world, problems in their community, challenges in their life, challenges in other students' lives, and trying to come up with a business solution to that. So that's one skill that I think is often
So,
not talked about.
so you're talking. I'm sorry to interrupt, Andy, but I
Yeah, that's
guess you're
okay.
talking about there are two levels to identifying problems, right? You could identify problems within the existing business or entity where you work, but that's not the type of problem you're talking about. You're talking about identifying what sometimes is called a pain point
Yes.
or an unmet need, and it might be something that you identify because you suffer from that pain. So
Mm-hmm.
you're looking for that for that aspirin to cure
Medicine.
that
Yes.
pain. And by looking for the aspirin, by finding that aspirin, you figured, hey, maybe I'm not the only one who suffers from that pain, and maybe there is a business opportunity here to explore. That's I imagine what you were referring to.
Yes.
What has been your experience in the classroom in terms of teaching students how to not only identify the pain but also the solution, the aspirin to it?
Yeah. So what we do, it's a very iterative process where they come up with kind of a low cost prototype, something that they think might address or solve the problem, some kind of medicine, so to speak, as you were
Hmm.
saying. And then they go out and test it. You know, they don't just start a business because they think it's a good idea or their friends tell them it's a good idea. That would be a really bad way to start a business. So what they do instead is they go out and speak to people. You know, do you have this challenge in your life? How intense is it? What do you do currently to address that challenge? And oh, by the way, what do you think about this potential remedy? And give me feedback about that. I think the students initially are a little bit nervous about going out into the field to do that type of what we call customer discovery research. But once they get going with it and they get over the hurdle of going up to strangers and asking questions, and we have a very structured approach to it, so they're kind of prepared when they go out into the field, I think they really like it, and it oftentimes leads to unusual situations. So I'll just give you one specific example. So a student in my class 2 semesters ago has a job as a server at a restaurant. So I encouraged her when she was serving tables to talk with the tables about her business idea, use that as an opportunity to get feedback. So she came back to class like a week and a half later, and she was all excited. And she's like, "Oh, Professor Gold, I did what you said. I was really nervous, but the families really enjoyed hearing about my business and engaging with me. And my tips went up significantly from those
Oh,
tables. That was really great." So I was really happy with that. She was really happy with that. She earned a little extra money, but I think it taught her that every opportunity can be an opportunity to kind of validate these many assumptions that we have about a business. And I just wanted to
that's a
say one thing.
wonderful example. So, who says that marketing research doesn't pay? It pays for her. It pays twice. It pays in terms of getting the information she was seeking, and also increasing the tips. So that's wonderful. And I wonder and we will go back to skills, right? But I wonder, in the case of our students, many of them do work. Apart
Mhm,
from starting full time, they also have family obligations. Some of them
mhm.
have one or more than one job. I wonder, what opportunities do you see for them to interact with the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the city? One
Yeah,
of the
that's
advantages of being at Lehman College, of course, is that you have one of the most diverse and
mhm.
wealthy cities at your disposal. So I wonder how we can do a more intentional job of ingraining the opportunities and the internships or externships or experiential learning opportunities for the students.
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that we're sort of incubating right now is this idea of cultural entrepreneurship as sort of like a guiding flag for us to kind of strive toward with our programming. Many of our students, of course, are bilingual, and many of them want to, when working on a business, do something that can enhance or help the communities in which they come from. So in the Bronx, for example, there are so many small businesses in the Bronx, and our students have this unique opportunity to engage with those business owners, but in a unique way. So we're working on this. We tested it last semester on this new program. It's almost going to be like a quasi consultancy where our
Mhm.
students learn about what is consulting in a course during the front end of the class. We bring in consultants to talk to them about that. And then we deploy them into the community to actually engage with small business owners to provide consultancy services to them, to kind of apply what they're learning in our classroom. We're very, very fortunate at Lehman College to have a small business development center housed at the college itself. In fact, it's in the building where I operate. And they're really helpful in connecting us into that ecosystem. So I'm very excited to see where that initiative takes us. It'll be a great chance for our students to apply what they're learning in a safe way while also benefiting the business owners in the Bronx.
Yeah, I bet you probably have a waiting list of businesses that might be interested in getting
Yes,
what is in essence free consulting services, right?
that's right.
By students who are being supervised by faculty like you. I
Hmm.
would imagine, if you're a small business owner, you probably need help in many aspects of running your business. One of which probably is of very high demand, which is marketing, social media marketing, and how can they promote their businesses with the help of our students. So,
Yeah.
in that case, tell me a little bit about what a student who's either let's think of two profiles. There's a high school student who's about to
Hmm.
graduate from a New York City school and is looking at studying business. Why should he or she consider Lehman as an option for
So one of the things that the dean of the Lehman School, College School of Business, her first name happens to be Dean also. So she's Dean Hurley. One of the reasons I actually came to Lehman and I'm excited to be there is she's instilled this culture of experiential learning and applied learning within the entire school of business, not just in entrepreneurship. And I think that experience is somewhat unique and novel when you compare other colleges and opportunities that are out there. It's not to say traditional learning is not beneficial. I think it is. But I think in the end, what our students really need is they need to kind of amp up their skills in a very, very fast way. So one of the things that we infuse, at least into the entrepreneurship programming, is a lot of AI fluency. So artificial intelligence is obviously a skill that students will need as they embark upon their careers. So we're really putting that into all of the classes, the entrepreneurship classes. So students get a lot of hands-on experience. They get to meet business owners. We have a very vibrant student club and many, many opportunities for students who come to Lehman to really lean into entrepreneurship. I will say that the program is geared for three different individuals. One I'll just call a curiosity seeker, someone who's got an idea for a business, thinks they might want to be an entrepreneur. So they come into our entry level classes to kind of figure out what is this all about. The second person is somebody that's actually started a business. They've taken the next steps of formalizing it in some way, shape, or form, maybe generating some revenue. Could even be a family business. Many of our students have family members that own businesses and they want to make the businesses more successful. Mm-hmm. And then the third category is what you mentioned earlier, which is somebody that really doesn't necessarily want to start a business right now, but they want to develop the skills that employers value. So when they go on job interviews, they're able to really compete at a higher level for those jobs. So I think those are three broad buckets of students that would find the entrepreneurship program to be very appealing and beneficial.
So if you were looking at the Andy Gold of a few years back, let's imagine you're in that position. You're precisely considering academic programs and contemplating different colleges, and you're thinking of business, not really sure. What would you say to that younger Andy Gold in terms of what would you have done, maybe slightly different, or what would you have thought about before embarking in the career that you did?
Well, I think when you're young, and I think about myself at that time, which is hard for me to think back that far, but I think back, I didn't really know much about anything. I knew what New York City was. When I was growing up, to me, upstate New York was White Plains. I had no concept of how vast the state was. I ended up going to a state school in Oswego in upstate New York, which was such an eye-opening and beneficial experience for me. But what I learned there, and really what I learned from a high school English teacher, this guy by the name of Mr. Edwards, was if I wanted a career in business, which I think I did at that age, like I was a junior, senior in high school, I knew business was interesting to me. He said, look, don't study business. What you need to study is economics and psychology. If you want a job in Wall Street, for example, working there, those are two disciplines that you really need to learn a lot about because they're everything in that world of finance. And I kind of followed his advice. I dual majored in those two areas, really got a lot out of it. It's a different world today, but I was fortunate in a serendipitous way to have met this guy, Mr. Edwards, in high school, and for him to kind of give me that guidance because I listened to him, I respected him, and he seemed like he knew what he was talking about. I think what I learned later on, as I got through my first career, is that oftentimes random interactions that you have or things that happen can really trigger you in one direction, a very positive direction most of the time. But you have to place yourself in a situation where you have those random interactions. You've got to kind of put yourself into situations that you normally wouldn't engage in, events that you might not otherwise go to, networking events that you might not attend. So my life really, like even my entrepreneurial career, I call myself a necessity entrepreneur. I never really started a business by identifying some grand challenge. I fell into entrepreneurship out of economic necessity. I had 2 young children, didn't really know what else to do. And I knew I needed to do something. My wife, Ann, was a school teacher, middle school teacher at the time. And I was like, I got to do something. So I kind of fell into entrepreneurship out of necessity. And I will share with you one thing. I am seeing that right now, that there is a rise of what I will call necessity entrepreneurs, not just at Lehman College, but across the United States. And a lot of it has to do with the challenges that young people are facing with entry level jobs, when they're trying to get their foot onto that career escalator. And many of them will get jobs, and most do, but it's very, very difficult today to kind of get your foot on that escalator, so to speak. So what they're doing is they're saying, well, gosh, if I can't get my foot onto someone else's career escalator, maybe I need to build my own. And I think that that's very exciting for me because our students are so entrepreneurial. They've got great ideas. Lehman is such a great community to help support that journey for them. So I'm very excited about what the future holds for not just Lehman College and the School of Business, but for our students and the borough of the Bronx and beyond as they launch these businesses.
And I must say, looking at all the tools and all the resources available today, um, it's a very interesting time to contemplate starting starting a business, a service business or a digital business. It's much faster, of course, than it used to be.
Yep.
But that also makes it quite interesting in the sense that you can explore an idea, and even if you fail fairly quickly, but you learn from that
Hmm.
failure, and you adapt and you change. And I think you mentioned something that is critical for our students to consider. You have to show up. If you don't show up, you never know where that opportunity will come up. You never know who you're going to meet that will transform your life. And something you mentioned about psychology uh, reminded me of one of the critical aspects of Lehman College that I find fascinating for our students is that ability to do interdisciplinary work. So
Yes.
we have six schools, and it's not uncommon to see, say, and I have had them, a nursing student who's doing a minor in business,
Right.
or a finance student who's doing a minor in music, for instance, or
Hmm.
psychology.
Hmm.
So the ability, and I think that's also an important factor to consider. Look for colleges that have that breadth of
Yep.
discipline, breadth of schools and departments and majors, because it's that combination of the technical and maybe more the humanistic. That combination is really powerful and can make a big difference, particularly in the age of AI.
Yeah.
That humanistic aspect, I think, is going to be more valuable than ever for our
Yeah, I
students.
can't agree with that more. I think when I had businesses and I would hire people and I was an employer, I always looked to hire people that knew about things that I didn't know anything about. I didn't want someone who brought the same skill set into a business that already existed. I wanted somebody with a different perspective, a different background, a different understanding and approach toward things. And that diversity of thought is so important. And I think what you said is really important. I've had students in the entrepreneurship classes that are music majors and students that are involved in maybe a science related degree tracks. And it always makes the class so much better, when you have students that approach things from a different lens, from a different perspective. That's really what makes innovation, I believe, accelerate. And I think we're very fortunate at Lehman to have that interdisciplinary culture, as you mentioned.
So I like to keep the interviews relatively
Yeah.
brief. So uh, before we say goodbye to our audience, I'm wondering if there is any final suggestion or any final recommendation you'd like to share with our students.
Sure. So I think today is an exceptionally exciting time for young students to give things a go, so to speak. So, what I would say, and what I say in all of my classes, is stop talking about what you want to do and start doing something about it. Like,
Mhm.
don't, yap about it. Actually, take steps safely to begin to explore whether or not that is something that's viable or not. But that mindset, as you touched on earlier, that action-oriented mindset is something that's valued across all industries in business and throughout the world. So taking a step forward with something can be a little bit scary, but we teach students, look, you want to open up a restaurant, that's great, but you can't. You don't have the resources to do it. It's not feasible. So what's something that's smaller than a restaurant? Well, maybe a food truck. Oh, okay. You can't do that either. You don't have the resource. Well, what else can you do? Well, we can go to a market and kind of try to test our food there and try to, but I don't have the $150 to rent a table at a market. Okay. Well, maybe you could start a blog or a vlog or a YouTube channel about the food from your culture or you can do so many things to boil down an idea into something that's so safe to take actionable steps. And I think once students begin to go through that process, no matter what they're studying, even if it's not entrepreneurship, although of course I think everybody should be studying entrepreneurship, but even if they choose not to, taking action and moving forward, whether it be joining a club at Lehman College, going to an event, engaging with industry folks that work in the field that you're interested in, it's not easy to do, but it's critically important. That would be, I think, the biggest piece of advice I would give.
Great. Thank you so much, Andy. And before we go, we have a question from the audience. Sahara is asking, do you see AI and digital tools lowering barriers for the Bronx entrepreneurs or creating new gaps?
I think AI is going to create enormous efficiencies for Bronx entrepreneurs. The challenge is when you're a business owner, you have so limited time. You're resource constrained, you're time constrained, and you're bumping up against ridiculous uncertainties in the world. But if you take the time to figure out how artificial intelligence can be infused into a portion of your business to help create efficiencies, I think that could really drive profitability and it could lead to new opportunities. So I see AI as more of a benefit to a small business in particular than sort of like a challenge or an issue or a concern. I think it's going to really help accelerate business development in the Bronx and beyond.
Great. So thank you so much, Andy. We're out of time, but this has been a great conversation.
Yes.
Hopefully the first of many. We will be talking more about specifically what you teach and how you teach it. I know you're teaching entrepreneurship next semester in the fall.
Yes.
So I look forward to at some point visiting your classroom and seeing that dynamic, because I'm pretty sure, based on what I have heard through the grapevine, that students are very engaged, very enthusiastic about the class. They learn a lot, they have fun. And who knows, maybe your student who is contemplating starting that business while she does marketing research at her job will be a success story that we will.
Yes. And can I just mention one last thing? Because I think if for any student that's at Lehman College or thinking about coming to Lehman College, last fall, the fall of 2025, we launched a really cool event. It was called the Holiday Market, and it was in the first week of December. It was an enormous success. We had about 32 students that vended and set up tables at no cost to sell handbags and food items and a jewelry and a whole bunch of things. So no matter where you are at Lehman College, whatever school you're in, whatever you're thinking of studying, if you have a product or a service that you want to sell or at least explore selling, that's a really great way to do it. We're going to do it again in the fall of 2026. I'm really excited about how that event will unfold. So think about that and let us know if you want to participate. It's a great way to get started.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Andy. It's a pleasure as always, and I look forward to our next conversation. So,
thank you for including
by the way, you are in Cambridge, Massachusetts, because you are at the Harvard Business School, right?
That's right. I got a certificate here. I don't know if you can see it
for teaching with AI.
Yes. I just finished the whole thing. It was great. We learned a lot. One thing we learned is that thanks to your leadership on the AI front, we are significantly ahead of the curve with some of our faculty in terms of AI integration into the classroom relative to folks I met here. So I'm very excited and optimistic about making further inroads to try to bring other faculty along and benefit the students to develop AI fluency along the way.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Andy. Great
Okay.
seeing you. And until the next time, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
Take care. And we have